Paperman, Adventure Delivered! I knew nothing about this when I started playing this. I thought there was a chance this was the sequel to Paperboy, the story of the worst paper deliverer, but it's not that. We can talk about that hoodlum if it ever comes to a Nintendo platform. Now, this is going to be a snap judgment review, and I'm going to get into the reasons in a minute. This is a platformer which you can play as 4 characters: Ascension Mailbox, an open letter, what looks like a bread box, and the Bill from the Schoolhouse Rock TV show. They have different abilities which can be used to access different challenges the world might have. I think the developers must have played Donkey Kong 64 and saw the fun of constantly changing characters and said, yeah, that's what we want to replicate. The level design is awful. It feels random and poorly planned out. It's also very ugly, and there's a lot of pop-in. And I was constantly getting lost, because there's no real flow to the levels. Because the game fades out the distance, it's hard to know where you need to go. There were a couple times where I ended up back at the beginning of the world because I got turned around. Each of the characters can do a different ability. Paperman can double jump and teleport wherever he throws mail. Express the Letter can run. Carl the Box can pull or push objects. And Scrolly the Bill can float. The game makes it painfully obvious who needs to be used in which sections, and you will constantly be going back to your mailbox to change out characters. If they just let you switch on the fly, it wouldn't have been as bad, but backtracking all the time so each of your characters could do their part in the level was aggravating. That wasn't until I accidentally jumped, and I think I did a ground pound at the same time, and it caused me to jump higher than usual. It was never clear to me on what was causing the difference in height, but I quickly realized I could just jump over gates and walls. So I just kept doing it over and over again. The last time I ran into game-breaking glitches like this, it was in Sonic Boom, where I learned how to phase through doors. I can't tell you how much fun I had breaking this game. I was just jumping over puzzles and just grabbing the golden letters, which is what you were supposed to be collecting. I was doing everything out of order and loving it. They did occasionally put up gates with upper guards, but usually I could just jump up a hill or a wall. I just kept doing this until I got to the boss. I got to a guard who's blocking off the boss, and you have to get him to lower the gate, but sometimes I didn't even bother, I just jumped over the gate. I was on a power trip! When I got to the boss, I had to know if I could jump out of there, but there were invisible walls everywhere, until I started jumping into some fire, and I was actually able to make it out. I kind of was hoping that if I jumped out of the arena, I would actually just win the boss fight, but that didn't happen. It just reset the boss. When I went to fight the boss proper, the instructions told me I had to grab some boxes and place it into some containers. But except for one time, it just wouldn't work. I think I might have broken the game too much. After that, I loaded up the title again to hopefully fix the issue. I wanted to see if I started up a save file again, if it would just take me to the boss right away, or at least a checkpoint nearby. It took me right back to the beginning of the level, with all the progress I've already made. So that meant I had to find my way back to the boss, and I decided to try it straight this time, and just kind of beat the boss. But I ran into the same problem I had before. I knew the general direction I needed to go, but how to get there legitimately was very confusing. And once again, I got all turned around. When you're actually trying to switch characters, you have to use the mailboxes to do this, and it is painfully slow. There is a delay to my selection, which took a few seconds for a new character to load in. And I went through this level for around 30 minutes. I just couldn't find my way back to the boss. It was too confusing, and I just gave up. From what I read, there are actually more worlds, but I can't take it anymore. You can play this in multiplayer, but would you really want to? It's just not a fun game to play without trying to break it. Paperman Adventure Delivered wasn't very good. The environments looked like they were taken straight out of a Nintendo 64 game. The gameplay was dull, with having to switch constantly between characters. The only positive I could find was the unintentional enjoyment was finding ways to get around all the puzzles. I do think you should skip it. It is not easy to make a fun 3D platformer, and this is proof of that. They should have just combined all the characters into one and made a more enjoyable world to explore. So I would just skip this one.